Y'all take a look at this 1964 DuoGlide, pulled out of Chicago, Illinois. Super original bike. Got a couple little custom modifications to it, but just really a nice original bike. So I'm gonna take this thing and just do a couple mild things to it, make it look a lot better than it is. First thing I'm gonna do is take the grandpa seat off of it. And a lot of people like these buddy seats. I cannot stand them. I'm gonna get that off of it. And then if you look at the Hollister Knucklehead bike I did, go back and look at those videos. The rear brakes don't work. When you push the brake pedal, nothing happens. So it probably needs to have a wheel cylinder, a master cylinder, and have the brake line flushed out, a new fluid put in it. While I have the wheels off, I'm gonna put the solid wheel discs on, like I have on the Hollister Knucklehead. Again, go back and take a look at that video, but check out this exhaust pipe. Normally wouldn't be the kind of pipe I put on a bike like this. I just really love it. I love the way that it looks. Just a few changes I'm gonna make. The wheel disc, the enclosed chain guard, the seat are gonna really give this bike a totally different look. Check it out and give me your opinion when it's done. It hasn't been run in almost 25 years, so it's gonna need to probably have the gas tanks flushed out, have the carburetor rebuilt. I gotta put a new battery in it, the battery's dead, engine oil, do all the things I normally do, check the points, check the ignition timing, transmission fluid. It's been sitting so long, I don't know if you can see this or not, but it's got an enormous flat spot in the tire from sitting in one spot for decades. So the tire's gotta come off the wheels and be replaced, because these things are just shaky to death. Vintage Goodyear rib tires, but what a great bike. I'm excited to get it running and riding. This could be my ride to Sturgis. All right, the biggest change to the DuoGlide is gonna come from changing the seat. The seat right here, and some people love this style. I don't care for it at all. I've got a solo seat that one of my seat guys covered in leather for me. It's really cool, I'll show it to you, but I'm gonna put it on to make a huge difference. I wanna take this off anyway to get the battery out. It's a little easier to get the battery in and out with the seat off of it, so I'll do that now. Well, watch how removing this changes the way this bike looks. These are always nice accessories. Make it real easy to get to the battery if you're on the side of the road. These just make it so much easier and quicker when you're hot and sweaty. That's when you lose something, when you're hot and sweaty. I'll go ahead and replace that 6-volt battery. And there's your H2 6-volt battery. That's what all the knuckleheads and big flatheads and panheads used. And I'm just gonna fill it with some acid. You can see the battery gassing off, which is the acid reacting with the plates and already starting to build a charge. It's transforming that chemical reaction between the plates and the acid into electrical charge. So you want to leave the caps off while the battery's gassing like that, because it's going to build up pressure inside. But I'll go ahead and show you on a digital voltmeter. It's already building the charge. And as it gasses up, it'll get to over 6 volts, and then I'll put a little charger on it to bring it all the way up. Check out the battery that came out of this thing. Whole back's busted out of it. Probably froze over one of those Chicago winters. While I'm waiting for that battery to charge up and I got the seat off, I go ahead and pull the dipstick. There's no oil in it. I want to make sure the bottom of the tank is clean. It looks good. I'm going to put some oil in it in anticipation of being able to start it at some point. Redline 20W50, I use it in everything. This stuff is the best, it's a lifesaver. Old Harley Davidsons love it. So I'm only gonna put a cord in for now, because chances are all the oil that was in this tank is sumped in the bottom end of the engine, and it's gonna pump back to the tank when I crank it over. It's probably gonna make it very hard to start. Whatever's in the bottom end is gonna pump back to the tank, and I don't wanna be over full once it's pumped back to the tank. All right, let me show you this solo seat I'm gonna put on here. Check how different this bike's gonna look with the solo seat on it versus that buddy seat. The solo seat just gives it a completely different look right away. You know, that other seat to me is just an old man seat. My wife doesn't ride with me, so I definitely don't need a buddy seat. And if she didn't want to jump, we could put a lick and stick on the back fender and get her on here. So this seat's gonna really make this bike. I had to get the back wheel out to change the tire, put the wheel discs on it, fix the drum brake. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove the stock chain guard now. This is one of the things I love about the HMC lift. Pull this out. I can drop my wheel out without having to unhinge the fender. The nice thing is the brake line doesn't have any dry rot on it. It's original line, and there's no dry rot, and that's usually because all the chain oil slings on them on this side and keeps them, you know, oiled up and protects them from exposure to sun and moisture. But the brakes aren't working, so what I'm gonna do is take this out and see what's happening, if it's here at the wheel cylinder, or see if it's at the master, or both, and if I have to rebuild them, I'll rebuild them. I'm gonna blow through the brake line from the front to the rear and see if it's clear. Now I've filled it with brake parts cleaner. I'm gonna blow through it again. All right, this Wagner's pretty nasty inside. See all the sludge? That should be clear brake fluid. So I'm gonna take it apart and see if it's rebuildable. Here's the rebuild kit. I'm gonna go wash my hands before I really get into it. But nice clean new parts to put in there, should fix everything. So the bore and master cylinder looks really good. I'm not going to do anything with it because it just looks so good, so the rebuild goes pretty quick. The system takes .3 brake fluid, so I put a little .3 in the cap because you want to lubricate everything as you put it in. The spring is going to go in, and then you want to lubricate the cup when you put it in so it doesn't tear, and just so it's able to slide in and out real easy. Be careful getting it in past the snap ring groove. Then the piston is going to go in. You want to lubricate the O-ring as you put it in. And I always use a screwdriver to push everything down, right? And then put the retainer ring in and you're pretty much done. You can see it's nice and clean inside now. It's ready to go back on the motorcycle and get some fresh .3 fluid inside of it. Here's the wheel cylinder. You see all that crud in there. It's just all coagulated. I'm sure the other side's the same when I pull the dust boot off. But so this is probably where the majority of my problem lies. I got the master cylinder rebuilt. I put fluid in it. It's pushing the fluid through the line right, and it's not leaking at the master cylinder. So that end is done. I just gotta rebuild this in and put it all back together and have good working brakes on the 64 DuoGlide. Look how bad that wheel cylinder is. It's just gnarly in there. This is what came out of it. It's just so nasty. That's the brake fluid that was in it. But if it cleans up like the master cylinder did, I'll be in good shape. So here's the wheel cylinder. It's got some rust and some buildup on the inside, but I'm gonna have to clean it up. The master cylinder didn't look that way, but this thing needs some cleanup. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean it up on the lathe. I got a berry hone set up here in my lathe. I'll just pour a little bit of .3 brake fluid on the hone to help with my cut. Turn that on. I'll just lightly clean up the bore of that master cylinder. Should be good now. I don't think it's gonna leak. It's got a nice little cross hatch section going in it, so I'm gonna go rebuild this thing. All right, there's the rebuilt wheel cylinder. I got it all cleaned up, ready to go back in the bike. I'm hoping that it doesn't leak and that it holds. If not, I'll get a replacement, but it's good American-made stuff, you know, made 60, 70 years ago. You know, it's pretty hard to beat it up. It just needed to be cleaned up and given some attention to, which is what I did. All right, so I got everything back together on the rear drum backing plate. I've got the wheel cylinder back in there. The brake shoes look really good. So now I'm gonna put the drum on it and bleed it. I'm ready to start getting the back wheel back up in this thing. Here's the wheel disc cover that goes on the left side of the wheel. I gotta get this up in there first and then get the wheel in too. I have the tire deflated right now. It makes it easier to get it in there just because it's not so bulbous. Doesn't take up so much room. Let me see if I can get this thing up in here. These wheel disc covers make it really hard to get the wheel in and out, but it looks so good, I gotta have it. I had them on my flathead, my 48 flathead forever that I rode, and I really miss them, so yeah, I'm having a hard time getting it in there. It may go. Yeah, it's going. There it goes. Okay. Let me get the wheel lined up. This is not easy, but if it was easy, everybody'd be doing it, right? There we go. So there's the wheel disc cover on the left side. You know, it's wanting to fall out a little bit. That's how it's going to sit up in the wheel. Really great look. Super traditional custom club 50s 60s style look, so I'm so stoked to get these on there. And when you see the bike on the ground, just with the wheel disc covers and the seat change, it's gonna make such a huge difference. I'm gonna go ahead and put the regular chain guard back on this bike, just because, you know, these things have a tendency to sling oil everywhere, and you know, I'm gonna ride a lot of miles, and I'm hoping I can get this ready for Sturgis. I'm really hoping it's ready for Sturgis. And so I'm gonna go ahead and put the stock chain guard back on it, and then move on to do the front wheel, and then see if I can get this thing to start for me. So I don't even want to show you the disc cover on the other side yet, because it looks so good. Like, it's hard to believe how cool it is, how good it looks. So I don't even want to show it to you, but until I get the bike down on the ground. But the disc covers are just gonna make this bike, man. It's friggin' crazy how good they make it look. My flathead I had was just such a cool bike, and everybody always commented on the wheels. There's just these tin covers, you know, and I put them on the Hollister knucklehead. My nut happens to have 19-inch wheels, which you can't use the disc cover. They don't make disc covers for that size wheel. You know, as always, Loctite on everything. And I'm giving the bike, you know, a real good go over right now. I'm looking it over because if I take it to Sturgis, I want to make sure I can get out there and ride and have fun and not be stuck working most of the time, because I'm not familiar with this bike yet. You know, once you ride them for a few thousand miles, you kind of know everything about them, but I'm not familiar with much of what's going on with the bike yet. So I want to make sure as I work on it Every little thing I see, I make sure I address it and know what's going on with it so that I can have me some fun in Sturgis if this happens to be my ride. If not, Bad Boy's got my back. Trying to start the bike, I was kicking it over a few times with some starting fluid and set the dual points on the circuit breaker and got that all firing, and it was firing with some starting fluid, but it was just really not trying to run. So I pulled the carburetor apart. This is the needle and this is the seat. This is what allows the fuel into the carburetor. And it was so clogged up that the needle wouldn't move inside the seat. It was just gummed up so bad. So I cleaned that up. I got the float set, and I'm going to put this all back together. And I'm expecting that it'll run because it was trying to start. It was firing, kicking back at me. You know, so if you have gas, spark, and compression, you've got a motorcycle that'll run. And it was certainly trying. So I'm going to put this back together and see what happens. This is the power tube that runs up the center of the linker carburetor, and this is how fuel gets from the float bowl up into the venturi of the carburetor to mix with the air to give it the proper air-fuel mixture. And as you can see, it's completely gummed up. Underneath all this blue and black gunk are a series of little tiny holes that the fuel actually goes through and goes up the top end of this tube here into the carburetor. So the clean part of the tube was actually up in the venturi there, and then the dirty part was down in the float bowl. So that's how bad the float bowl was. Once I clean this up, I'll give you another look at it. Then I should be able to reinstall the tube in the carburetor, put the linker carburetor back on the motorcycle, and get it to run right. There's the power tube cleaned up. There's the holes I was telling you about. They were completely clogged. And besides that, the hole down the middle was clogged. You can't see it in this light, but I've got it cleared out now. And this, combined with the fact that the float was stuck and wasn't able to allow fuel into the carburetor or moderate how much goes into the carburetor, was the thing that was keeping the bike from running. So I should be able to install this and get almost instant success. So I got the 64 running pretty good. I'm sure it's gonna need some fine tuning, some road miles, and I'll find out a bunch of things about it that you're gonna find out after something's been sitting for over 20 years, almost 25 years. But I got to where it starts pretty easy, especially when it's warm. Watch this. My friends Tom and Lori Faber Cycle, make these replica cast aluminum Chicago motorcycle supply passenger foot pads. You know, normally you'd have a bracket over here with a peg for the passenger, but they're kind of get in the way if you're riding a passenger on a buddy seat. And this was a replacement that actually gives you a little bit more room and doesn't bang into your ankles when you're pushing the motorcycle around. So I'm going to put these on, especially since the bike's from Chicago. I mean, perfect fit, really killer, high quality, aftermarket custom piece, which is what people were doing in the 60s. Is just putting on aftermarket accessories. You know, really before the chopper craze, this is what you did, was you bought accessories for the bike and accessorized it, you know, before it really became custom. So you go on like that. Here's the passenger peg with the extension bracket for the buddy seat. And you can see how this would be in your way when you take your foot off the footboard and go to put your foot down. Your foot wants to bang into it. That's why these Chicago motorcycle supply foot pads are so nice, because they really kind of take all that out of the way. And you know, these things just always banging into your ankles and in the back of your calves. So this is a really nice upgrade. I'm putting on nice vintage style reproduction copper core cloth covered wires, you know, black and white, and disappear into the bike versus that yellow that just stood out against it. And it just, you know, bring it back to where it should be, give it that style that it should have. Before I changed the plug wires, they just jumped out at you visually. Now you can barely see them, which is kind of what you want. Another little accessory I'm going to change that I got from Faber Cycle is the replica bronze Chicago kicker pedal. You know, bike's super original. I'm keeping all the original parts off of it, but I like customizing it, accessorizing it like they would have done in the 60s. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this on there too. Just a nice little piece. Color should pop off the bike real nice. All right, here's the 1964 Harley-Davidson DuoGlide FLH after I've done a ton of work to it. Compare it to what it looked like before I got started. Let me run down everything I did to the motorcycle. The biggest visual change is definitely changing the seat. I took that big buddy seat that was on it and put this custom leather solo seat hand tooled by Kurt at Bare Bones Leather on. The seat's got no padding on it, so all it is the pan with some leather over it. It looks really great on the bike. I think that's the biggest visual difference. The second big visual difference is obviously the wheel discs. While I had the wheels off, to install the discs, I had to do the back brakes. The back brakes were completely gummed up, so I redid the entire rear brake system. It's hydraulic, the front brake's mechanical, so I only had to adjust it. I put new tires on that, got the wheels back on it, and that was the lion's share of the work that I had to do. Then I did a bunch of smaller other things that the bike needed. I put the Buco stars on the front fender. I've got another set of brass Buco stars I'm probably gonna put on there too. They give the bike a lot of 50s, 60s vibe. I put the Chicago Motorcycle Supply passenger footboard pads and kicker pedal on from Faber Cycle. I fixed a little bit of electrical wiring on it that it needed to have touched up. You know, it had been sitting for almost 25 years. I removed the 1980s AMF oil cooler that was on it. Yeah, you're gonna want it sometimes sitting in traffic, but you know, these things were pretty durable, and I think it's gonna be okay without it. So I took that off and ran the oil line direct from the filter back to the tank. Obviously put a new 6-volt battery in it, and that's an interesting story in and of itself. I think this is why this bike was parked 25 years ago. The 6-volt battery that was in the motorcycle was completely blown up. The whole back of the battery was blown out. It's because it was overcharging. It was overcharging because they put a brand new generator and a brand new voltage regulator in it, but they put a 12-volt generator and regulator in a 6-volt motorcycle. It was running, I was riding it, but it was way overcharging the battery, causing the battery to cook, overheat, and blow itself up, and I think that was causing them a lot of electrical problems they couldn't figure out, especially with the ignition. I set the ignition points, I set the timing, and I rebuilt the Lincoln carburetor. You saw how gummed up that thing was. As soon as I did that, right away the thing wanted to fire to life. I've ordered a 6-volt generator and regulator. That'll be here in a couple days. As soon as that gets here, I'll put it on and really start riding the bike. I can only ride it up and down the road right now with the generator disconnected. Otherwise, I'm going to cook the battery that's in it. I'm waiting for the regulator and generator to get here, but until then, I've got it looking pretty good. I'll tighten up a few small details on it. So I just got off the highway. It should start right up. Just a little bit of throttle, a little bit of timing retard. Should kick over on one kick.